Fred Taylor, does he belong in the Hall of Fame? Now, I read this article on the way home from my interview earlier today. And if you look at his numbers, overall, he played 17 seasons in the NFL, all-time rushing list with 11,695 yards. He played against some of the best defenses in the league at that time. But if you look at numbers, he played 11 of the 13 seasons with Jacksonville. He owns Jaguars' career rushing record at 11,271 yards with 2,428 attempts. Consecutive 100-yard games. 9 of them was in the year 2000, and the most rushing yards in the game with 234. So I don't know I don't see the touchdowns here, but I mean, if you look at the players that's in the Hall of Fame that doesn't have a Super Bowl but have career snaps, career stats, do you feel like Fred Taylor should be in that same token as being a Hall of Famer? Because I feel like he does. And now he's on the Pivot podcast with, Ryan Clark and those guys, and they make it a big name for themselves on that side. But is it time to put him in the Hall of Fame, knowing that look at all the other running backs that really didn't win Super Bowls but had the stature to go? So Mac, I would like to start with you on this one.
So looking off of stats alone, over 2,500 rushing attempts with over it's 11,695 rushing yards.
Right.
Okay. He's then has 290 receptions with over 2,300 receiving yards.
Right.
Now, all combined touchdowns, 74 touchdowns. I mean, you'd like to see the touchdowns be a little higher, but I mean, damn, he 4.6 yards per carry
in his career, right?
Yeah, and he's got over 10,000 rushing yards. Okay, how is he not in the Hall of Fame? I mean, I understand he might not be a first, second, maybe even third ballot, but I mean, by the fourth or fifth or 10th ballot.
Yeah,
I think he should have been. I think he should have been in right now. He's been out the league for a bit now. What has been more than 10 years since he's been out the league, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, the last time he played was when? Shit.
It had to be early 2000s. It had to be early 2000s because
no. He played well into the 2000s. I mean, his Pro Bowl was in 2007.
Yeah, his last season was in 2010.
That's what it is. That's what it is right there. Because his lack of Pro Bowls, that's really demon. The only Pro Bowl he went to was 2007.
Okay, so when it comes to the Pro Bowl thing, y'all know that's a fan voting thing, correct?
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. But again, if you get to the Pro Bowl, usually 2, 3, 4 times, it means you're one of the best. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why it does mean something. But when you have stats like that, I mean, I think the stats alone should carry him. Like, and mind you, I'm looking at Wikipedia, getting this information. It's the most trusted source because
he had 9 100-yard games, 9 consecutive, not sporadically within it. Mind you, back then it was 16 games. So you ran for 100 yards, 9 out of the 16 games. That's almost half the season that you rushed for over 100, at least 100 yards. So I think it's well deserving of Fred Taylor to be in the Hall of Fame book. I want to hear your thoughts on this.
I agree with Matt. Matt kind of took because he hit the stats. That's what I was already looking at. So I was just counting. I think he had 7 seasons with over 1,000 yards. His highest being 1,500 and rushing. Like
you got
even I guess. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, go ahead, Matt.
I actually remember watching him play. That's the whole thing because you got to figure he was a rookie in '98. You know what I mean? Like. By 2007, you know what I mean? Like, I'm already a couple of years into high school, so the majority of his career, I've seen him. And Baltimore Ravens play Jacksonville Jaguars at least once a year. If it wasn't in the preseason, it was during the season. So it's like we got a lot of looks at them over them years. So it's like I remember him. So that's why I'm saying, like, for him not to make it, the only reason if you were to put him on a Giants a San Francisco 49, like a different team that has a little more status, I think he would have won.
But if you look at those teams with the Jacksonville Jaguars, they just couldn't get over the hump in those playoffs because you had him with Mark Brunell, and you know you had the Jimmy Smith was over there, you know, Keenan McCardell, you know, those guys was really good, but they just couldn't get over the hump in the playoffs. But I get what you're saying though.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what I'm saying. Like, unless somebody's like 35 years old, they don't really remember him, or unless they're a diehard Jaguars fan. I'm just being honest here.
I mean, we saw some players go into the Hall of Fame that we had to look up their stats to look at them too. I just hope the NFL keeps that same energy, you know, for Fred Taylor, because I could go back if I really wanted to do my research. I could go back and say some players that's in the Hall of Fame that shouldn't be.
Oh, you know, sure. There's a handful of them.
And so for me, I'd just like to hear what the chat have to say about it. Snowman Multimedia, Anthony Estrada, Chad, how y'all feel about Fred Taylor? Should he be in the Hall of Fame or he should not be in the Hall of Fame? So I would love to definitely hear from y'all, because those Jacksonville Jaguars scenes were so good. They were so good to watch at that time. Even though they have not won a Super Bowl, it's been a long time since they played that game. What's going on, Protect the Show podcast from Nothing But Raiders podcast? What's going on, brother? And I know he's a big fan of football, so I would love to hear your intake on this too. Is Fred Taylor a Hall of Famer? And if I think for me, Boog and Matt can absolutely agree and say Fred Taylor is a Hall of Famer. No hands down to me. Hands down to me, because it's been some running backs, it's been some players at different positions that was lacking what Fred Taylor. They didn't do what Fred Taylor did, especially at his position, and got into the Hall of Fame. So I think it's a big issue with the voters. The voters are too old school. The voters need to get with the times and have Fred Taylor be a Hall of Famer. Absolutely. I just think it's a no-brainer. I just think it's a complete no-brainer here. Especially if you, that's why I feel like if it's I understand it's called the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but if you look at the impact that, you know, like basketball does with their Hall of Fame, they put basketball, something basketball Hall of Fame, if I'm not mistaken. They look at their college career and their professional career. Why we can't do that in the Hall of Fame for football? Why we can't do that for football? Because we've seen so many players come out that was successful in college and come out and be great in the NFL as well. Even though sometimes you might not have a great college football career, but your NFL career might be great, you still could get in the Hall of Fame. I think it should be an option here, in my opinion.